draft a running back with their first or second round pick. Very interesting with Pittsburgh. We know they have to address the quarterback position for the future at some point in this draft, but they're also balancing the future with the present and trying to field a competitive team for this year. Left tackle, running back, try to rebuild that offense. Early possibilities for the Steelers in this draft. We are now up to 19 teams that have announced through the NFLPA that their players will be skipping the voluntary portion of the offseason workout program. This should not be news because those programs are voluntary, but most of the time, most years, most players do participate in them. There has been disagreement between the NFLPA and the NFL over how much in-person work should go on this offseason, and right now the players seem to be staying away from the parts that are voluntary, as is their right. Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, recovering from knee surgery, appeared at the Bruce Arians charity event on Sunday, talked about the recovery, says it's going well. He hopes to be able to participate in a June mini camp if there is one. At this point, that is the only mandatory portion of the offseason program. So Brady seemingly targeting that for a return to the field following his offseason surgery.
Fascinating, as is his propensity for changing his haircut constantly. I've never seen a person have more completely disparate haircuts in a short period of time. Tom Brady looks different every single time you see him. Meanwhile, the big question involving Brady and the Bucs is, can they defend their championship, of course? And that begins with our friends in Las Vegas at Caesars Sportsbook, where they have set the win total for the upcoming season for Tampa at 11.5, which is the second highest in the league. Only Kansas City is higher at 12. A team led by Tom Brady has not gone under its preseason win total since the 2009 season. So that is something to keep in mind on. And so is the fact, bear in mind, this is out of 17 games, not out of 16. That's going to take a lot of getting used to. It's something I feel like I'm going to need to keep reminding you, but that's the total. They're going to play 17 games. 11.5, more or less. What do you think, Dominique?
Oh, man, you set me up right there with all those facts and evidence, but I think that they're probably going to go less, honestly, and that's not terrible. I think they probably win around 11 games. They get to play the NFC East, which is not all that challenging a division, but I do think that it's important to remember that they were not this dominating team that we saw them as in the Super Bowl. Yes, there were some injuries and stuff that made it so they could dominate the Chiefs in that game, but they struggled through some of those playoff games. You could argue that they didn't necessarily deserve to win that Saints game or the game against the Packers. There were some very big kind of, I guess you could call them fluky plays that tilted that game. And throughout the course of the entire season, at no point did they feel like some consistent juggernaut. So it's hard for me to imagine that they're going to turn into that all of a sudden next year. They will be very good. I'm sure they'll win close to 11.5 games, but I think it's probably safer to project that they're going to go right at 10 or 11 than it is to go that they're going to go to 12 or 13.
A reminder that the 1 seed has never been more important in any season in NFL history than it will be this year, because there will be only one bye. Not only do we have 17 games, but we have 7 playoff teams in each conference. So with that thought in mind, Tim, does that skew your thinking? Which way do you go? You think Tampa wins more than that?
I do. I'm going more here. And listen, I think they're the best team in their division, which I don't think that was the case, especially early in the season a year ago. But I'll point to 2 other things, and you brought one of them up. I know they're near and dear to Dominique's heart with his previous role in the PA. You mentioned it, the 17-game season. You're getting an extra game to get to that 12th win. That means a lot. And the other aspect of it is this, the offseason stuff, which you also touched on, which is basically, I think we're going to have an offseason similar to our offseason a year ago, which is guys are staying away. But guess what? Tom Brady's not staying away. Tom Brady is creating his own offseason. And guess what? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers players are going to go be a part of it. And so I think that continuation, that kind of team chemistry that they have in Tampa means something. I think they get to 12 wins.
Yeah. And they couldn't be more the opposite circumstance than they were a year ago at this time, Dan Graziano, when they all showed up and basically needed name tags. This time around, all 22 starters from the Super Bowl are back. So if any team should get some advantage, it would seem, from the lack of offseason work, a team with that kind of experience together seems like it should be at the top of it. What do you think, Dan?
I lean more toward Dominique here because I believe, as he does, about the thinness of the margins in this league. I'm always going to say under in a situation like this when the number is high. Now, you're right. It may take some getting used to say 11.5 is not what it was a year or two ago when they only played 16 games. But I think, the Buccaneers, yes, they had great December, great January. They are champions and worthy champions. You cannot underrate Tom Brady or his chances at winning. But they had great injury luck. And again, some of those games were very close. I really think it's very difficult to project the team to win 12 games in a season. I'm going to have to go under.
We'll see. Again, if they win 12 this year, it would be 12-5. I'm not sure exactly how long it will take me to get used to saying that, but I can tell you.
I don't even know what that means.
It's going to be a lot longer than today, that's for sure. Anyway, let me give you weekend eye candy, because it was a fascinating weekend, and it started with this. YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul knocked out Ben Askren right there with a right hand midway through the first round of their fight that lasted less than 2 minutes. Paul extends his record to 3-0 in professional fights, and there was much rejoicing. Meanwhile, you want to see the craziest play in a football game you've ever seen in your life? This is Delaware-Villanova. That's Daniel Smith. Watch this. Flip, up and over, and it's a touchdown. Daniel Smith is the quarterback of Nova. Charlie Gilroy catches the touchdown. I've never seen anything quite like that. Delaware would win the game, by the way, 27-20. So the touchdown was for naught, but it sure was spectacular. And then Steph Curry. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. How does that go in? Getting Grant Williams to bite on a play fake. Steph would score 47 points. He has now scored 30 or more in 10 consecutive games. Meanwhile, we got hoops for you tonight. Another NBA Monday night doubleheader. Steph Curry's been on fire. He'll go to make it 11 straight 30-point games as he takes on Embiid and the Sixers at 7:30 Eastern, and then we're headed west. Rudy Gobert leading the Jazz against the Lakers. Our coverage starts tonight with Stephen A's pregame Sports Center at 7 right here on ESPN. Coming up, why does one Green Bay legend think Aaron Rodgers and the Packers could be headed for a nasty divorce? You will hear the answer. Plus, Zion absolutely balling in his first game at MSG. But it's what he said afterwards that has sent a lot of people into a frenzy. You will hear that on the way. And it's a tale as old as time. It's Sneaky Hembo and Dan Graziano. Here we go. Who is the oldest player to win the NFL MVP award in consecutive seasons? Oh, that is sneaky.